Hey guys, what's up everyone? Today in this video, I'm gonna show you how you can make a graphical user interface application using Python Tkinter. After the end of the video, you would have made yourself a Pokedex application in which you can search for any Pokemon and get all details of it. The application would look something like this. And it's completely responsive. So if I resize it, it will always remain responsive. And I can search here any Pokemon that I want. Let's search for Pikachu. After all, who doesn't like Pikachu, right? And click on submit. So its image and all of its detail would be displayed here. Let's search for another Pokemon. So I would type here Charmander and click on submit again. We also get its detail. Let's get right into coding. The first thing that you need to do is download and install Python from the official site. Once you have installed Python, you will need to install 3 packages. So I would go in my command prompt and type here pip install request. It is for fetching image into our code. Below, it is an image manipulation library. And finally Pokebase, which is an API interface to the Pokemon database. And click on enter. We are now ready to start coding. I have created a file called Pokedex.py and open it in text editor. You can use any text editor that you want. Let's start by importing all of our required modules. So I will type here from Tkinter import star. This means I am importing everything from the Tkinter library. Now we will import 2 required modules from the pillow library. So I will type here from pill import image and image tk. I would import requests. I would also import the bytes IO module. So I would type here from IO import bytes IO. And lastly, I would import the API wrapper that contains the list of all Pokemon, so we can fetch from it. So I would type here import Pokebase SPB. I will explain later in the video what these 3 modules actually does. Now we will create a variable called window. A window is an instance in which all of our widget will exist. So I will name the variable as window and make it equal to the tk class. Now I want to cite the title of my window. So I will name it Pokedex. Now we will set the size of the window. The size means the dimensions of my applications. So I will use the function called geometry, which will be 600 into 700 pixel. Now I will finally run this application. So for that, there is a function called main loop, which basically keeps running our application until we manually close it. So and it is always placed at the end of the code. So now if I run it, you can see here our application is now created. Now we will learn about the label widget. A label widget is used to display either an image or text. So first I will name the variable as label equal to label with argument as window and the text which will be displayed on the window. So I will name the text as hello. Okay. Now we will use a function called pack. A pack is a geometry manager that will display our label into our window. So I will specify the function as .pack. And if I run this, you can see here that the hello is displayed on the window. So our label widget is working fine. Now what if I want to display an image instead of a text? For that we will use the module that we imported earlier, which is image and image tk. So I would remove these 2 as they are not needed anymore and take a variable as img equal to image tk dot photo image and image dot open. And I have an image called pokemon.png in my directory. So I would use this image and display it on my window. So I would specify its argument as pokemon.png. Now in the label, I will name the label as suppose banner equal to label argument as window, and here is an extra argument called image. I will specify the image that I created earlier in my code equal to img. Now again we have to specify the image, so I would use the dot image equal to img. Finally, we would display the banner onto our window using the pack manager. So I would type here banner.pack. Now if I run this my code, you can see here that the image is displayed onto the screen. Now we will create a label with text which will serve as a placeholder, which is enter the name of Pokemon. So I would name it label1 equal to label, and the arguments are window, text which will be enter the name of Pokemon. It is a placeholder, and finally the argument says fg, which stands for foreground. It means the text color, so I would set it as red. Pad y, which is the vertical padding, so I would specify it 20. And finally the font argument, which accepts a tuple, so I would name the font family as Ubuntu and the size as something like 18. Finally, I would use a pack manager to display it on the window. Now if I run this, you can see here that our placeholder enter the name of Pokemon displayed on the window. We would need to accept something from the user, right, which is the name of Pokemon. So for that we would need to use the entry widget. So I would name the variable as Pokemon input equal to entry, which is the name of our widget, and it's accept the same argument as label, which is window, and the font, which I will specify the font family as Ubuntu and size as 18 pixel. Again, I would pack it using the pack manager, so I would type here .pack. Now you can also use the pad y argument in the pack function. So if I type here pad y equal to 20, it will apply a vertical padding to the Pokemon input widget. Now if I run this code, you can see here I can now type it anything in this input field. So our input widget is now created. Once I have entered a Pokemon name, I would need to process the information, right? To process the information, I would need to submit this Pokemon name to the server. So for that, we would need to create a button. So I would use the button widget. So I would name the variable as btn equal to button. The arguments are window and bd, which is how much the button would be raised out of the screen, and text, which would be submit, as it's a submit button, fg, which would be the text color, so I would specify again it as red, bg, which is the background color, I would specify it as yellow. Again, I would use the geometry manager called pack to display it on the window. Now if I run this, you can see here our button called submit is now created, and I can now press it. Whenever I type something in it, when I press it, something should happen. Now I would create an empty label field which would dynamically display Pokemon's image. So I would name the variable as Pokemon image equal to label. I would use the geometry manager called pack and add some vertical padding of 20 pixel, or let's say 30 pixel. Below the image, we would now need to also display the Pokemon's detail. So I would name the variable as details equal to. Now we will use a new widget called text. It works as the same as label, but instead we can now manipulate the information in the text very easily. So I would specify the argument as window font as Ubuntu and 12 pixel as size, and the background color as light yellow. I would again use the geometry method to pack it. Now when I run this code, sorry, there's a typo here. I have forget to specify the pad y argument. So I would type here pad y equal to 30. Okay, now it's fine. Let's now run this. Okay, now here our Pokemon image would be displayed, and all of the detail would be displayed in this light yellow background. So it would display like this. The text would be look like this. Now when I type something in the text box and click on submit, nothing would happen. Why? Because we haven't implemented the backend yet. To implement the backend, we would now need to bind the function to the submit button. So whenever we click a submit button, the function called search would be executed. So now let's implement the search function. Let's create the search function here. So I will name it search. For the first step, we would need to first clear everything from the text input. So I would type here details dot delete and end. So what it does is it will clear every text from the text field. So if something is typed like this, it would clear it and make it empty. Now we would finally use the Pokedex API. So I would create a variable called Pokemon equal to pb.pokemon, which is a function. Now we will now need to import the Pokemon name into this function. So remember that we created the Pokemon input field here. So whenever I type a Pokemon, I would have to fetch this name. So I would use that get function. So I would type here Pokemon input dot get, which would fetch the name that we have typed in the input field. I would now use exception handling to handle the case when the Pokemon name entered is invalid. So I would type here try and name the exception as attribute error. Now when the Pokemon name is invalid, I would like to display a warning message. So I would type here details dot insert not a valid Pokemon. This means when the Pokemon name entered is not valid, I would like to display this message. And I would specify the image as null. So I would specify the argument as blank, which means nothing. Okay, the asset part is now done. From now onwards, I would use the details that comes with the Pokemon API. So you can read the Pokedex API for more details. Let's fetch the image. So I would name a variable as request.get Pokemon.sprites, which is again an attribute dot front default. Image equal to image tk.photo image, and again we are fetching the image. For this function, we will need to use the bytes IO as the image is stored in the current RAM. So I would use the response dot content. And finally set the Pokemon image widget this to the image that we fetched earlier. So I would use the function called config image equal to image. Again we would set this equal to image. Now the Pokebase API comes with many attributes like abilities, types, height, weight. I only use the ones that are required for the program. Now I've skipped the coding part as it's not required for the context. You can read the documentation of Pokebase API for more details. So you can copy the code from here till here. Now we'll insert this data into our details widget. So I would type here details.insert end, which means we are inserting till the end and the data. We will not need to bind this function called search to the button. So I would type here in the button command equal to search. The coding part is now fully completed. Let's now test our GUI application. So I will run this and search for any Pokemon like Elements and click on submit. As you can see here, the image is displayed along with all of its detail like height, weight, abilities and type. Let's search for another Pokemon like something like Lunala. Click on submit again. So the image is fetched along with all of its detail. Let's search for a Pokemon that does not exist like something like LOL. I'm sure a Pokemon named LOL does not exist. So let's click on submit. And I get the error response, not a valid Pokemon. So our GUI application is now completely working fine. I hope you have enjoyed the Python Tkinter tutorial. You could also read my blog post in the description below for more information and the source code. Do like, share and comment on this video, and please subscribe for more awesome content like this. Thanks for watching.